Fat Ass 45's personal battle with COVID-19 is the starkest example imaginable that the fat ass has bungled his response to the pandemic that to date has claimed over 210,000 plus people, while the squatter in chief's infection only warrants a textual coda. In Alex Gibney's Totally Under Control, the tireless documentarian's latest is a damning account of Fat Ass 45's horrid and criminally negligent handling of the crisis, from his downplaying of the virus's seriousness to his refusal to champion mask wearing and social distancing, his mismanagement of PPE and ventilator demands, his squabbling with the scientists and state governors, his dissemination of false facts and figures, his manipulation of the CDC, his promotion of dangerous miracle cures, and his willful disregard for the health and safety of himself and those around him, and thus jeopardizing the country's national security. Did I miss anything else? It's been a long 2020. And in short, it's an up to the minute summary of the nightmare Fat Ass 45 has put America through, told in exhaustive, definitive, and infuriating detail. It premiered on Tuesday, October 13th on VOD. Totally Under Control was produced in secret by Gibney and co-directors Ophelia, whatever the fuck the last person's last name is. It looks like Haru Tai Onion, I don't know how the fuck you say that fucking name, and Suzanne Hillinger over the past over the past 5 months, and it's primarily focused on the initial stages of the ongoing catastrophe that we're facing. Part of the documentarian's tradition, it's a sharp and concise report of recent events comprised of conversations with experts, including New York Times reporter Michael Shear, who just tested positive after flying with Fat Ass 45 on Air Force One, and an archive and or and archival news clips, including a parade of Fat Ass 45's greatest deceitful hits, and digital graphics that complement Gibney's narrated commentary. Since we've all just lived through this tragic tale, much of what's on display will be extremely familiar with viewers, as will its minor omissions, such as Fat Ass 45's marginalization of Dr. Anthony Fauci, his slandering of masks as politically correct, his fondness for bleach-based remedies, and his attacks on Joe Biden for adhering to the very precautionary measures he's willfully floated at press conferences and Klan rallies. Yet, even if Gibney can't include every one of Fat Ass 45's high crimes, what he does deliver is a decisive denunciation of the fat ass's failures that have led us to our present situation. With what they call interviews conducted via a newly designed remote camera system, and with subjects often wearing masks when they first appear on camera, it says Totally Under Control boasts a formal approach that itself is a rebuke to the Fat Ass 45's administration's disregard for safety measures. Its talking heads are uniformly critical of the squatter in chief, laying out in chronological fashion the many ways America's leadership refused to adequately prepare for COVID-19's arrival and properly assess its gravity and acted accordingly to contain its spread. Gibney's film illustrates that the powers that be began falling down on the job almost as soon as the virus was first identified in Wuhan, China, as well as once Washington reported its initial patient, who wasn't tested until 4 days after he became ill, meaning he'd already spread it to upwards of 2,000 fellow citizens in his area. Gibney's straightforward storytelling allows for lucid diagnosis of the many missteps along the path to our current predicament, the lack of urgency shown by officials, the shortage of testing kits, which then turned out to be faulty, thereby stemming testing during the calamity's crucial early junctures. The creation of a task force led by people with scant scientific expertise, but plenty of political motivations. The administration's refusal to cut through bureaucratic red tape to get tests manufactured, and employ the Defense Production Act and its institution of limited testing guidelines, which didn't target community spread. Its desire to place its faith in the free market to take care of the PPE needs, consequently leading to competition between states and the federal government, and of course, the endless Fat Ass 45 lies that this is their new hoax. Anybody that wants a test can get a test that's going to disappear. One day it's a miracle, it'll disappear, which it didn't. It's still fucking here. To emphasize that all those shortcomings were avoidable and are correctable, Gibney juxtaposes America's pandemic procedures with those of South Korea. Though through rigorous national testing and tracing mandates, inspired by their prior virus-related crises, South Korea got a hold of the COVID-19 before it became unmanageable. We, on the other hand, opted for an approach of interagency squabbling, delays, disinformation, and the politicization of masks, and which here is underlined by the virus social media videos of Republicans throwing fits at grocery stores and coughing on strangers over their objections to face covering requirements. Gibney's account is so sobering and enraging that when he attempts a mildly cheeky moment, scoring a montage of states' efforts to import PPE to C.W. McCall's convoy, it comes across the as inept as the gallows humor. Basically, for the most part, though, there's nothing even bleakly funny about his documentary, and the overreaching approach is clinical, and the mood is despondent and outrage. Fat 45 support for hydroxychloroquine, which he learned about from New York's Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, who touts his drug cocktail in the film to unconvincing ends, serves as a particularly maddening passage. However, it's no more galling than Gibney's explanation of Project Airbridge, a program in which the government subsidized 5 private healthcare companies to buy and sell PPE to the states, thereby giving these firms an unfair advantage over their competitors and forcing governors to literally bid against each other on eBay style for essential goods. It's no surprise to learn that one of these companies was Gilead, the manufacturer of remdesivir, a drug whose patents are owned and whose research was funded by the federal government. The Fat 45 administration allowed Gilead to charge exorbitant fees for remdesivir, and now it's the drug that Fat 45 has spent the past few days taking, giving it a PR platform that money couldn't buy. The entire system, totally under control, persuasively argues it is a corrupt mess as Fat 45 and his cronies have exploited the pandemic for profiteering gain, while simultaneously downplaying its direness in order to keep the economy going, and Fat 45 believed to maintain its chances for re-election. With the Fat Ass, who was a recent patient at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, his post-debate poll numbers plummeted, thanks to a variety of fresh scandals, including the bombshells from his tax returns and nationwide infection on the rise. It's obvious that Fat 45's strategy of self-interest has, at least of early October, backfired. Certainly, it's done nothing for the country at large, and mirrored as it is in a disaster that, totally under control, contends could have been mitigated by a response that prioritized caution, clarity, cohesive teamwork, and sacrifice. Gibney's documentary is yet another reminder that we were denied such a vital strategic reaction to the pandemic by an egomaniac and incompetent fat ass who doesn't care about anyone but himself. As Prestige Ameritech Executive Vice President Michael Bowen says, basically he failed us, which he has. He's known for that. So if you liked the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Rambin Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.